All right, here we are at the Teachers Talking Hoops podcast, episode 210. Uh, we are we're here to talk some basketball. Um, it's been a week. We were kind of sporadic a little bit in the beginning, but I want to say we podcasted last week.
Yes.
Yeah, because we talked about the SEC ACC challenge. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we talked. And but since that time, I think it's been about uh, eight top 25 teams went down in the past week.
Yeah.
Some multiple times. Looking at you, Kansas.
hmm
Um,
What about the ACC just laying down?
so Adam has a hot take where he
It's not
thinks
a hot
the
take.
the SEC is the best
It is.
conference in America, which he did say in the beginning of the season that he believed the SEC was the best conference in America.
Mhm.
Uh, I thought it was a bit extreme to have that view because at the end of the SEC ACC challenge, it was a big difference there. We had a 14-2 um, uh, advantage, I would call it, for the SEC. 14-2 advantage for the SEC. But like any good championship contest, it's give me your one, give me my one. Auburn, Duke for the
Oh,
ACC SEC championship.
whoa,
And with,
whoa,
Du-
whoa,
with Duke's victory,
whoa,
reigning supreme,
whoa,
they
whoa, whoa.
claimed victory for the ACC in the SEC ACC challenge.
First of all,
Some thought it was impossible, but with their victory, they grabbed it from the hands of the SEC.
Auburn is not the SEC's best team.
I,
But
yeah, Auburn's the best team in America.
no, Tennessee is. As of today, Tennessee is the best team in America.
I 1A 1B. I think they're the two best teams in America.
Okay. Well, I guess I will say this. Is this where we're starting off?
About Duke winning the SEC ACC challenge, yeah.
No, just the game. I will say that was a must win for Duke in terms of non-conference
Yes.
uh kind of, you know, resume building because they had blown, we're going to say blown because they really did. They blew their chance against Kentucky and then they blew their chance against Kansas. So that was a big time win for them in Cameron. Cooper Flags, third time around the block. Um Auburn played them physical like a lot of people thought they were going to do, but uh what's his name? Shoot. Isaiah Evans just
Yep.
decided to appear out of nowhere
Yep.
and look like prime Kevin Durant and give the Blue Devils some much needed energy to help them get the win.
You know what I hate about basketball fans though is Isaiah Evans has been waiting to come out for a while, and
hmm
he's a good shooter. I really like his intensity and passion, stuff like that. But as soon as he hits 18 points, right? As soon as he goes 6 of 8, I believe, from the 3 point line,
hmm
and everyone's like, "This is it. Why are we playing Colin Knippel? Right? Colin Knippel's trash." And then the very next game, Isaiah Evans shoots 0 for 2,
Yeah.
plays 10 minutes, fouls, has two fouls in the first like 30 seconds that he's out there.
Oh, I thought you were going to say
Everyone's
fouls out. I was going to say
yeah,
10 minutes fouls out is crazy.
everyone's just so quick to it doesn't always have to be a this or that situation. Like in this past game when Duke played Louisville, Malik Brown's been playing awesome this season. But
Yes.
Malik Brown had a great game, and Malawach played like 11 minutes. And
Yeah.
they're like, well, I guess like Malik Brown's the center. It doesn't have to be that though. Like you
hmm
can have there's roles for guys, and it's game dependent, and it's who's the hot hand at that moment. And the teams that figure that out are the teams that win the national championship, right?
Well,
The
it's
ones that
even
are well, I'm
Malawach
just
only
saying
played
the
11
ones that are
minutes
able to
against
swallow like
Auburn.
their pride. What are you saying?
Yeah. I said Malawach only played 11 minutes against Auburn too, so
Yeah, yeah.
it's like
Because like
or
Malawach is
15,
probably
but
the better. prospect,
Mm-hmm.
but Malik Brown is. I mean, they played. What's Janai's last name? What's the guy from Auburn's last
Room.
name? Broom.
Deny
Yeah,
room.
they played Broom and they
Mm-hmm.
played a Louisville team that really just wanted to. I mean, shoot threes really
Mm-hmm.
with basically it. And like you just needed Malik Brown to be kind of active and moving around and stuff. And um, yeah, so
He's been playing great. Yeah.
I mean Isaiah Evans had a big game. I agree it was a must win for Duke, but at the same time, like some besides Tennessee, maybe Auburn, a couple other teams, Duke is 8 points away from being 9-0 with wins over Kansas, Kentucky, Auburn, and Arizona at Arizona. I mean, they're eight,
Mm-hmm.
and then win at Louisville, which isn't a terrible win either. 8 points away from just looking. I mean, beating the 1A 1B with Tennessee. And it all comes down to you know what I heard on a podcast is apparently John Shire, and I don't know if he stopped it during the Auburn game, but up until the Auburn game, and this it frustrated me, but other people seem to like it. I guess he hasn't been calling any plays
Mm.
because the philosophy was these early games just didn't matter that much, and
Mm.
he wanted them to learn how to like play through it without him,
Mm-hmm.
which I understood. I thought it was stupid, but I understood it. I was like, how about when you're down five or 3 points to Kansas, maybe you call play like,
Right.
like, um, but I think Duke is in a spot to. I think what most people say about Duke is they have the potentially highest ceiling out of all the teams out there. Because
Mm.
while they have that veteran leadership, they also still are really anchored by Cooper Flag. Con Knipple is still getting big minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah Evans is still um, he's gonna get some minutes. They say he's playing better. And then I would also say like Duke is not the exception to this, but they are. It also is important to note that like these guys are all just starting to play together too. And I know like
Mm.
most teams are like that now with the transfer portal. But adding in Duke's youth with the fact that this is a pretty much like new team means that there's just so much room for growth when it comes to that. So, but
So you're on your high horse this week.
uh,
2-0.
you,
You're
you know, we,
feeling it.
we were about 10 minutes from not doing this podcast because that Louisville game, they keep going down early, right? They were down to Kansas by like 10 or 12. They were
Mm-hmm.
down Arizona, Kentucky. They're down to Louisville by 14 points.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, Louisville shot 8 for 11 from their first 11 threes. Um,
Right.
but and then I think I heard on a podcast today they shot 8 of 11 and then they went I think 3 for the next 20.
Yeah. So
So
evened it out.
yeah, and I mean Duke won pretty comfortably after that, but I mean that was Wiley watched about 2 minutes and then he went downstairs. He,
Watch
like,
cartoons.
he was just like, what did he say? He goes, it wasn't even anything. He just pointed out he's like, oh man, like Duke's losing, and I was like, well, thanks for pointing out the obvious. You can go play Roblox.
You're like, get out of my living room.
Yeah, he doesn't like North Carolina anymore though,
Oh, well, there's
because
progress.
we watched UNC.
Like
We watched
Bama.
UNC versus it might have been Bama, and they were wearing like the white jerseys with like the
Oh,
blue
yeah, yeah.
lettering, and he only
Mm-hmm.
liked UNC because he likes the color light blue. So
Oh.
since the jersey wasn't mostly light blue, he threw him to the side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He
So
did.
he'll be
They had the first game the other day. They won 17-10, and
okay.
he got in for about 4 minutes,
Nice.
which was good because he is the youngest guy on the team, mostly because of
Okay.
fourth graders. He's in third. His coaches are much better this year. Like they take him out and they like call him over and they point like where he's supposed to be and like what
Oh,
he's
that's
supposed to
good.
do and stuff. But he did. I forget if someone passed him the ball or if it was like a loose ball, but he did pick it up, dribbled it, and passed it to somebody.
Oh, that's
And
good. Look at that.
and he had a plus minus of 0. No
Okay.
one scored when he was in the game. Not his team, not the other
Hey,
team.
there you go. Well, he played more minutes than Mason Gillis did in the Auburn game, so
Yep,
you got to
yep.
look at that.
Um, yeah. So I mean, we can look at Auburn, Tennessee. Tennessee is ranked 1. Um,
Hmm.
Auburn's ranked 1 in Ken Palm.
Right.
But Tennessee's 2. So they're
Hmm.
they're both kind of in there. I don't think. Um, I mean, where's Auburn at in the AP top 25?
Two. So actually,
Okay.
here's where I'm going to make my case in point. The SEC has 5 teams in the top 9 in the rankings,
They also have,
and
I
they
think, in Ken Palm. I looked at it earlier. Well, at trivia, uh, uh,
it's not going to be
Auburn
much trivia because I have Ken Palm up too.
Auburn has, SEC has. Oh, did that change? Okay, there it is. SEC has 16 teams.
Hmm.
Can you guess who the lowest ranked SEC team is in Ken Palm?
Oh, I think I it's Vanderbilt. They
It
said it on
was it
TV.
was Vanderbilt. It was.
They said it on TV the other day. It's
Yeah, it
Vanderbilt.
flipped. Vandy's 15th right now.
Okay, so who's the worst SEC team? It's got to be like South Carolina or
It is
something.
South Carolina. Can
Yeah.
you guess what they're ranked?
God. South Carolina. I'm gonna say um it's probably not even that bad. I'm gonna say 91.
They're 68.
Yeah, see, like it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
even that bad.
There's
68 is
16 SEC teams in the top 68.
I think
Meanwhile,
right now.
the ACC, the Conference of Champions. Can you guess? Let me. What is this here? Can you guess?
Oh
Uh,
my
I
god.
don't even know if this is the lowest team. It's probably not. Oh no, it's definitely not. Can you guess? Well, okay. So can you guess who the lowest ranked? Oh, I thought it was that. I thought it was even lower than that. Let me.
It's got to be like Miami or something because Miami's pretty bad. And there's going to
I,
be Tennessee's just going to beat down on them tomorrow in the
I
Jimmy
thought it
V
was
Classic.
lower. Let me see. Okay, okay. Actually, okay. It got better. I thought it was even lower than this. The lowest ranked ACC team is Boston College and Virginia
Oh yeah.
Tech at 153 and 154. So they're
And yours, okay. I don't want to hear that the ACC is.
there's 16 SEC teams in the top 68, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 11 teams lower than the worst SEC team,
Yep.
which is exactly why Duke had to beat Auburn.
Yep. The three best in the net rankings. Duke is 4 in the net. Clemson's 12, and then Pittsburgh is 17th. No, 16th. Here, I'll give you your trivia question. Who is the next ACC team after those three? Who's the fourth best ACC team in the net rankings?
Well, I'll tell you one second. It wasn't Kemp I was looking at earlier. It was the net rankings when it was really
Okay.
low. Virginia Tech is 207 in the net
Yeah, it's
rankings.
even worse.
That's awful. But you know who's balling is Jaden Shoot. Jaden Shoot's averaging like 15 points a game.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the other day. What's with all these Duke guys? Jalen Blakes.
Jalen Blake's is crushing it. Jalen
Who's the
Blake's
other
is
guy? Mark, my guy. We're gonna talk about my guy Mark Mitchell
we
next,
will.
but
We will.
he crushed it yesterday.
But Mark
All these
Mitchell always had that potential. Like Jalen Blake's is averaging like crazy numbers.
all these Duke guys leave, and then it's just
That's a stretch. That's a stretch.
it
Because
all goes up for them.
Sean Stewart still sucks. TJ Power still sucks. Um, and
I
this
don't
this
know.
is coming from someone who wanted to keep Sean Stewart and TJ Power.
Sky's
But
looking up for them.
the
You
fourth
know.
ranked ACC team in the net rankings.
Yep.
Who were the top three?
Duke, Clemson, and then Pitt.
I'm gonna throw a wild card and say the obvious answer I feel like would be Wake or UNC. I'm gonna say it's Stanford.
It's SMU.
Oh, and they crushed it in football too.
Yes. So it's actually,
Um,
they have a good game on Saturday against LSU, who is one of the first four teams out of the tournament right now. So the SEC could be hunting for 14 now because Missouri will be in the mix.
do you think they could
So
get all? Do you think 16 SEC teams could get in? So that's the problem, right? Is the SEC is going to start beating each other, and it's
yes.
going to help, but it's also going to hurt
Well, the other
because well, I was just saying there's only so many. Even if you're in the best league, there's only so many losses you can have.
right, but the other thing that plays into everybody's hands this year is there's no longer the Pac-12.
Yep.
So that's at least four or five bids that didn't go out that will now.
Yeah.
So I think we're the best league. One, because we just demolished the ACC. 14-2. You can't ignore that. 14-2. We
Oh, I'm not.
just beat.
I didn't ignore it at all. We just had a 5 minute conversation about how Duke is the best team in the country.
We just beat uh the number one team in the country. Ex number one team became the number one team in the country. And talk about that Kentucky Gonzaga thriller beating a top three team like that.
That one,
We
I
crushed it.
did. I turned that. I don't normally stay up that late because I fall asleep, and I did watch the first half of that. I turned the game off because I was like, "Well, what's the point of watching the second half? Gonzaga's going to win this game."
We crushed it this week.
Um,
You're making it's a hard case, and then Miami is about to get whacked tomorrow by Tennessee. I don't even know why they're showing up for that game.
I yeah, Duke needs to. Uh, yeah, and you know what? I mean, well, you know what I don't like. I'll tell you what I don't like. Um, I don't like how UNC looks. Um,
Yeah, they
I
have
watched
no
them.
front court.
Yeah, and they played Georgia Tech the other day, and they
Mhm.
won.
By
But
three,
it
only by
wasn't
three.
good. Yeah,
Yeah,
I watched that game, and it was, um, it's. I mean, it's just. I if they for them to win anything significant,
hmm
RJ Davis is going to have to score nearly like 40 points a game.
yeah. And I don't know how many opportunities they have. They don't have a lot of opportunities.
Yeah,
They have really two more: UCLA and Florida. Only two really opportunities in the non-conference because they have a win over their best win is over Dayton. They swung and missed on Kansas, Auburn, Alabama, and Michigan State. So I'd say they're one in four in quad one. Um, I'd I don't even know. Can you consider Dayton quad one? Maybe quad two. I don't know.
on a neutral, right? That was
On a
neutral.
on
I
a
think.
neutral site.
Yeah, I mean
So
Dayton's Dayton's quad one right now, but I would
yeah,
say there's that big risk, right? If Dayton takes one or two bad losses in the A10,
yeah. I mean
it's
Dayton's
something.
37 in the net, so I would think they're quad one. That's a
Yeah,
quad one win. But that, like you said, that could easily slide to a quad two. So,
I mean,
um,
if UNC loses one more game, or they get a little iffy when they play at Duke, that could be a quad two game for Duke.
so I'm gonna say this: if UNC strikes out against Florida and UCLA, I think they almost have to win the ACC to make the tournament because there. I mean, I think we all know this that there's really only three opportunities in the ACC. Duke's your best quad one, Duke
Yep,
and Clemson, and
yep.
if it doesn't matter your your record, you, you have to win your quad one games. So I think that's going to be interesting to look at going down the stretch for sure.
I'm looking at the net rankings. Speaking of the SEC, tell me which SEC team do you think fits in the middle of this? A 5-4 UNC. So this is in order. 5-4 UNC, or actually I'll go 5-2 San Diego State, 5-4 UNC, 7-0 Drake, SEC team, 4-4 Arizona, 5-3 Boise State. What SEC team is in between UNC, Drake, Arizona, and Boise State?
You said they were 9-0.
Yep.
Oh, that's the newly joined Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah, it's Oklahoma because of I've got to look up there who they played real quick. Um, because of kind of their collapse last year
Mm,
after having this hot start, are they kind of being ignored? It just feels like a team that's I don't know, that's sort of been I mean they're 40 they're 44 in the net rankings, but they are
mm-hmm,
13th
mm-hmm.
in the AP poll.
Yep.
Um, is is there just do the metrics not like them? Do they really not deserve to be 13? I mean, they've got that Louisville win, they've got Arizona win, right? So two teams that are supposed to be good that may not be that good.
Mm-hmm,
They beat Providence. I guess not really much else, and
mm-hmm.
they barely beat Providence. They
Yep.
barely beat Louisville. They barely beat Arizona. They
Mm-hmm.
blew out some really bad teams like Alcorn State and Stetson. Um, so I guess maybe not in the right spot, but where? So Oklahoma's 9-0
Mm-hmm.
with a game against Michigan coming up.
Yep.
Um, is Oklahoma more likely to be? I don't know. Let's say they're 9-0. Let's add 10 more games. Are they more likely to be 16-3 or like 12-7?
I mean, I'm going to say 12-7. I mean,
Because of the SEC.
yeah. So I'm not impressed with Oklahoma's schedule because I don't think Arizona's that good. I don't think Louisville's that good. Their best non-conference is Michigan, but then you look at their schedule after, and you're like, oh my god, like the SEC is a brutal
Yeah.
league. I mean, they have to turn their first SEC game. They have to go to Alabama, and then they have to turn around and go play A&M, which are going to be two tough games. Because Oklahoma did this last year in the Big 12, as they started off the year 12-0,
Uh-huh.
and then they fell apart in conference and missed the tournament. And it strikes to the point where you say, is like, how many losses is too much for the committee to leave you out of the
Yeah.
tournament? And
Yeah. I
I
mean, you
think,
look at this, they've got at the end, at the end of the season, just based off of what the rankings are right now, they play number 9 Oklahoma, number 25 Mississippi State, number
mhm,
5 Kentucky, number 19
right,
Ole Miss, Missouri, who just beat Kansas, and
hmm,
Texas. Like that's their last like 6 games.
yeah, and I think in the SEC, I'm going to say that you are not going to need to have a winning conference record
Mm-hmm.
to make the tournament if you have the out of conference wins.
Yep. Yeah, and if you don't have that conference wins, I mean, there's room for you to do it, right? I think you
Right.
have to go. You've got to take down
Some
at
big
least,
hitters. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
between Tennessee, Auburn,
Hmm.
Florida,
Yep.
um, and Kentucky, right? Can you get two of them?
Hmm. And I think too, again, I'm sure we're gonna touch on them briefly, but along with Oklahoma, like if you're a team like Missouri, who's now 9-1, I mean, they haven't played that impressive. They have a win over Cal, who's not bad, but then that Kansas win is what's going to stick out. And then if they can turn around and beat Illinois in a couple of days, that's two quad one wins. And if they can finish the conference with like a 7-11 conference record, and if they can take care of business against three other crappy teams, that'll put them at 20-12. I think that'll be enough to get them in.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a first four kind of team, one of those last teams in the tournament, just because of that those wins. It's crazy to say it too, but it's like time's running out for your non-conference wins.
Yeah.
You've got to get them now. There's really only about 1 to 2 opportunities for each team to get theirs, if that.
So that Missouri Kansas game, what do you think?
Mm.
Does that say more about Kansas, more about Missouri? Mark Mitchell, uh,
He balled out. He balled out yesterday.
Mark Mitchell is he's kind of Mark Mitchell that I that was good Mark Mitchell. I don't know if you always get good Mark Mitchell. Good Mark Mitchell is great on the defensive end. A terrible free throw shooter, and he missed a couple yesterday. A line drive 3-point shooter that sometimes goes in. The biggest thing I noticed when I watched the game is the first time I see Mark Mitchell all year.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he looked skinnier than
Mm.
when he played at Duke, and
Mm-hmm.
not in a not that he's too skinny and not that he was overweight at Duke. I just looked at him. I was like, hey, he looks kind of lanky. Um,
So you say
but
he's skinny. Guess what his weight is listed at?
let's say 240.
230.
Um, but is as I told you, I thought Kansas, the role players on Kansas played really well against Duke. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, obviously they did, right? Because Hunter Dickinson went out, so they had to play really well against Duke. Um, but you wonder, similar to last year, do they have it? If they is this just Hunter Dickinson looked exhausted at the end of last year.
Mm.
And you wonder, even though this team looks like it's gotten better and got deeper, are they going to run out of steam again?
So Kansas is 7-2. Both their losses have been on the road.
And not
So
against on the road against unranked teams, but not
mhm,
bad teams. Like we talked about
right,
how Creighton was disappointing. So
right,
losing to Creighton at Creighton is not a bad loss, I don't think.
right. And I think that's going to be the problem. Is like they're going to win all their games at Fog Allen because they have the energy around them. But you've got guys on that team, so many missed layups,
Mm-hmm.
so many dumb shots down the stretch, so many missed wide open shots. You're never going to win a game on the road. And then you give Missouri what was it, like a 17-point cushion
Yeah.
at one point? Like, you're never going to win if you do that on the road. Hunter Dickinson went 8 for 15. I think he's got to take more than 15 shots. They have to get him the ball because then it just opens up the offense for them. But there were some really bad shots yesterday that contributed to why they lost. And I think if Kansas can't clean that up, and then, Missouri just attacked the paint yesterday. And if they can't guard up and if they can't make shots on offense, then I mean, they're not going to win any road games. But
Yeah.
your guy Mark Mitchell did make a 3-pointer. Did you see that one?
I did see it. It was
That
his
was like, geez,
line
that
drive
was an
corner three.
arrow, like the announcer said.
Yeah.
I don't know how that went in, but
Yep. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess they blew it there, but I mean, Hunter Dickinson's last. I mean, he did 15 boards there, but I mean, in his last 5 games, 15 points, 11 points, 10 points, 6 points, 19 points. Um, he did have 15 points and 15 boards against UNC Wilmington, and granted, he got knocked out of that Duke game, but 11.6 boards against Duke, 10.6 boards against Furman, but they didn't really need him.
Mm,
6 points, 8 boards against Creighton. Couple fouls, right? 4 fouls against Missouri, 3 fouls against Creighton,
yeah,
3 fouls against Duke. They definitely need to keep him out of foul trouble.
right.
Um, it's let me check our timing here. The I'm looking at KenPom again. Um,
Mm,
so all these teams we kind of just talked about are all around the same spot. Creighton is 41. Missouri's down at 49. So the two teams that have beaten Kansas, 49 and 41.
yeah,
Oklahoma, the team talked about that's maybe on the rise. They're 42.
yep,
John Calipari's kind of, we're not sure what they are. Arkansas is at 45. And right in there, sandwiched in between, is the two worst teams in college basketball, Indiana and Villanova. 43 and 44. Villanova at 6-4, riding a 2-game winning streak, I believe. Um,
yeah. Calls for a lot of celebration when you beat Temple and Ryder. And okay, well they beat Cincinnati, but still, uh, they're gonna lose to
and
like FDU or something, and then we'll come back here next time. And
Indiana,
I
I think Indiana 89-73 over Providence. You may
Indiana
owe them an
sucks.
apology.
No, I don't. Indiana sucks. I don't owe them anything. They're just gonna blow it like they do. Same with Villanova. You know what Villanova's motto is? There's always next year. That has been Kyle Neptune's motto every single year he has coached Villanova. There's always next year.
You know what? They probably will lose to FDU, huh?
It's like the Kyle Neptune circle. It
Oh
goes
boy.
start off the year hopeful, win a couple games, lose. Then you have that point in between after your 3 game losing streak where you win against a ranked team, and then the cycle is complete when you lose to a very bad team at the bottom of the net going into conference play and going to conference play with like a 7-7 record. That's the Kyle Neptune life cycle at Villanova.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I think I foresee another year of Kyle Neptune. I foresee a good enough Clemson or good enough Villanova team this year to get Kyle Neptune another season out of it. I think he's back.
I don't know how he's still there. I don't know how he still walked into his office this morning. You know what he should do? He should get Eric Dixon a big thank you card because that young man right there is literally the only reason that he is still coaching Villanova.
Might just be a big Jay Wright fan. Jay Wright might like him.
Jay Wright's probably rolling over in the studio like, what did I do?
Um, all right, so we covered SEC, we covered the SEC ACC stuff, covered Kansas a little bit. Um,
I feel like this was a
I mean,
quiet
we got
week.
a little bit of that rebirth of UConn, right? UConn was able to kind of rebound pretty nicely
Yes,
from
like a
there.
phoenix out of the ashes come the Yukon Huskies. And that's why
You know what? I
Dan
did
Hurley
mean
is
to
my
talk
coach of the
about that.
week. He's my coach of the week. I don't want to hear anything for it. That's a way to respond right there. You beat
Wait,
two Big 12 teams. That's the way to respond.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find this quote, but I did. I thought this was no, not that. Um, let's see if I can get. Anytime in the past week, maybe. Um. Okay, here we go. This is after they beat Baylor. Dan
Mm-hmm.
Hurley said, "I
Is this about
think
Aiden
part of this
Mahaney?
problem." What's that?
Is this about Aiden Mahaney?
No, no, it's just about his coaching
Okay.
in general.
Okay.
So he said, "I think part of the problem has been me. I've coached these guys frustrated, and I've coached them frustrated for too long. This is a team that's going to be a work in progress and a team that's going to get better and better, and relying on a lot of young players and new players."
Wait, hang on. I think you cut out. I can't hear you anymore. Oh no. Wait, you disappeared. Well, um, so we were talking about the Yukon Huskies here and their response coming off their three-loss Maui Invitational. Their first win coming against Baylor in the Big 12 Big East battle. A very good response by the Huskies, going toe to toe with a good powerhouse Baylor team. Oh, maybe he's back.
I think I'm back. So
Okay, yes,
yeah,
you're back now.
I'll finish part of the quote. I won't read the whole thing again. He said, um, "For us, I had to coach this team with more grace and more building them up and more enthusiasm. I can't coach them mad because we're not currently playing as well as we have in the past." So I thought what Dan Hurley
Mm-hmm.
said in a couple pieces there was growth as a coach, because we've talked about, and I've mentioned my dislike for his coaching style, and how it would be ineffective for me, and he clearly has recognized that this group, he at least in currently can't yell at and can't berate, but he has to help them kind of evolve. And I thought that was growth, but I also, in a positive way, I thought it was growth. In a negative way, it I don't know, in a negative way, but like, I don't. It was validating for me to know that Dan Hurley realized that he's an a hole.
Mm. Well, like I was telling our viewers, well, you disappeared into the internet void. I mean, what a response. Going from everybody writing you off to coming back and getting two quad one opportunities in 1 week. I mean, this team, I don't know what they did during their time off from Maui, but boy, did they grow and take a step in the right direction.
Yeah,
And now they're going to have a fantastic opportunity on Saturday night taking on Gonzaga at MSG. I mean, that place is, UConn faithful are going to travel. And if UConn can get that win against Gonzaga, I think we're going to be talking next time about how UConn's back in the conversation for a potential three-peat.
yeah, and I had that marked as a clear Gonzaga win, and now UConn's kind of kicking in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I do wonder,
Mm-hmm.
in that win against who they just beat, um, Texas.
Texas?
Was that the game that Caravan was out of? Uh,
No, that's when Baylor he was out of.
oh,
Texas
he's
he
back for that.
returned
Okay,
for.
because I was going to say without Caravan,
Yeah.
that Gonzaga game becomes obviously a much more difficult game. But um,
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, a lot of teams are trying to take Caravan out of the game because the argument is that he's really the only NBA prospect on UConn right now. So they're trying to make other people win the game. And way to go out and prove those people wrong with that win. Now, granted, Jeremy Roach wasn't playing.
Roach is out.
He got knocked out with a concussion.
VJ Edscombe, or how you say his name, he's out, but he's been kind of trash
Edgecombe,
anyways.
yep.
From at least I haven't followed it closely, but he hasn't been anywhere. I mean, the top freshman players have really been Flag, the two Rutger kids. Um, and even that guy on I'll have to look up his last name, but the guy that comes off the bench for Baylor
For
or Auburn.
Auburn,
Oh, sorry, yeah, the
I
guy.
was going
Yeah,
to say Auburn.
yes, yeah.
Hod
Oh,
Pettiford,
yeah,
yeah,
he's
he's
been
been
great.
fantastic. I mean, he 20 points in 18
Yeah,
minutes against Duke. Not at Cameron too. Like
yeah,
that's very hard to do for a freshman. So he's going to be in the
yeah.
NBA for a long time, for sure,
Um, but
for
yeah, it's.
sure.
I mean, yeah, UConn. They're right back in it. Um,
Hmm.
and I think um, you know, as much as I wouldn't want to see this, if UConn can kind of put together and three-peat and win the championship again, they're gonna make this whole documentary about the rebirth of Dan Hurley as like this hippie yoga guy, and they're gonna have this background thing of him like learning how to like calm himself down, and because it's like I think you you know who usually gets kind of through to people is women, and you wonder. I remember when he was negotiating, and there was talk about how his wife didn't want the LA job because she liked living in the Northeast and she liked kind of what they were doing. You wonder if his wife saw him not only kind of lose that game for his team, but just was
Hmm.
like, guy, you're kind of looking ridiculous. It's like
Hmm.
you're a middle aged man throwing a temper tantrum on TV. Like you got to stop that.
Man, way to call him out here.
Yeah, I gave him credit. I the universe
You
hated it
did.
so much. I
I was
tried to give him
shocked.
credit, and they kicked. I got kicked out of the.
You got. I know. I had to turn the volume up even louder because I thought I misheard you.
Although I believe, well, no, they're up there. I think. Yeah, you can't up there. Okay. All right. Yeah. So we talked kind of about the rebirth of UConn. Um, Trying to see if there's any other big storylines.
I know. I was thinking. I feel like we had a quiet
Yeah, I
week,
mean,
kind of.
besides those big upsets, but I mean, there's so many of them. And I asked you that
Yeah.
question earlier through text about kind of the state of college basketball. I think over the past couple of years, there's been a lot of talk about parity, and with the transfer
Mm,
portal and the COVID year, and I think we're left to
right.
wonder with all these upsets, is this are we seeing parity? Are we just seeing the fact there's no good, like no great team anymore? Because Kansas was ranked
Mm,
one. I don't think anyone was under the
right.
impression that they were a great basketball team.
Yeah. And it's even like, when I looked at that and saw them on the schedule for Sunday, my first thought was it's a winnable game
Yep.
from Missouri. It's not like the number one team five
Yeah.
years ago where you were like, oh man, no one's gonna beat them. And it's like to the point I absolutely think there's a parity, and I love the parity in college basketball now, especially when you see it during March Madness, because it's like any given night, somebody can beat you. Like Arkansas State
Yep.
did to Memphis yesterday. Any given night, you can get beat because now with the transfer portal, you can get anybody. Everybody on that court can play, and if you don't put your best foot forward, you're not going to win. Doesn't matter what kind of a program you are. If you're a Power Five program or you're a mid major, you play your best game, you can beat
Yeah. I mean,
anybody.
you look at Broom from Auburn, where he was from, what, like Howard or
Hmm.
something like that. Morehead. Yeah.
Morehead State, yeah, yep, for sure. And it's like if you can make the most of your opportunity and you can work hard and play at that level, there's no reason why a team like you know Virginia Tech can knock off
Yep.
Duke, or a Missouri can knock
Yep.
off a
And
Kansas,
I mean,
or
Deion James has been
something
great
like
for Duke
that.
this
So
year, and he came from Tulane.
right, exactly. So and I feel like a lot of the guys, I don't want to say this for everybody, but a couple of these guys have come from mid majors and just really
Yep.
made their mark. And it's just really cool to see, like the guy from
Uh
Tennessee,
huh.
Chaz Lanier. He came from North Florida and he's killing it right now in the SEC. And even Dalton
Yep.
Connect last year. making that jump, and Grant Nelson from Alabama. There's a ton of guys that you could go on and on with, and they've made their
Yeah,
mark.
yeah, it's changing the landscape of college basketball. I think
Hmm.
for, obviously for better or worse. I think overall it's better. I think
Hmm.
obviously
Yep.
there's still some adjustment that has to take place in terms of people getting used to the fact
Hmm.
that you might only have a guy for a
Right.
year and it feels more like professional
Hmm.
sports. But I would argue
For sure.
while it's not the greatest thing in the world, it's more enjoyable than the
Hmm.
NBA because even though the NBA you can do kind of something similar, even though you get locked in for a few years, there's there's teams that are
Hmm.
clearly better than the NBA. There's teams that are clearly making like
Right.
as you mentioned, like anyone can be
Hmm.
anyone because when you watch college, you feel like everyone's trying to win. When you watch the NBA,
Right.
you're like, like
Yeah. There's some teams that you can tell they're like, yeah, they're
yeah,
just here for the. It's like everybody's
yep,
tanking for Cooper Flag, and it's like you can clearly tell who wants him and and who's actually trying
yeah.
for a playoff spot. Which I give those teams that were not supposed to be in the spot in the position that they are to try and make the playoffs.
Yeah, so it's yeah, it's an interesting landscape, and it makes for an interesting season, makes for an interesting tournament, um,
Hmm. Yep, for sure.
and I think we're just going to see continued. I think you're just going to keep seeing this parity, and um, yeah, to me, it's I think you see it a lot more in basketball than you do football. I'm not a big
Hmm.
football person, but to me, it's always been like
Right.
you think about getting like the number one pick in the NFL draft. It's like that's great,
Hmm.
but is that guy gonna really turn your team around? There's just so
Right.
many people that
Yeah.
you need. Where in basketball, if you get the number one guy out of the transfer portal, like that's a big thing.
Hmm.
And
Right.
it's let's say oh, and in college football with NIL and stuff like that, it's supposed to be kind of this even
Hmm.
landscape, but Alabama's still getting all the best people,
Hmm.
and Georgia, and Notre Dame because they have
Right.
all the money.
Hmm. For
Whereas in
sure.
college or
Yeah.
in basketball, I think you're still like Arkansas and some of the teams they get all these players and all this money, but it's just
Hmm.
so I don't know that like it's basketball is one of those things where like I think people are a lot closer than in some other sports. Like your guy that's ranked number one, or maybe not one, but your guy's ranked number 40 versus your guy that's ranked number like
Hmm.
200. It's like there's not
Right.
this massive difference between those two guys, and it also comes down to like
Hmm.
the team and the team makeup. If you got a whole bunch of guys
Hmm.
that play really well with each other that are all 100 to 200, they can still be a good
Hmm.
team.
Right. Yeah. And I think we're going to continue to see more of this parity, and I think obviously it's more spread out, like you said, in basketball than it is football, which I think is great for the sport because you have some guys who are not getting maybe the play they want at the high major level, but will go to the mid major level and just, I mean, they'll absolutely kill and play really good basketball. And you get a group of those guys like Oral
Yeah.
Roberts that year, where A. Smith ended up going to Texas, O'Banner, Texas Tech, Vanover to Arkansas. Like, those are all guys that I'm sure they were recruited by big time schools and went smaller for a better opportunity and then worked their way back up. And it's like there's more teams like that now, which is very exciting for the
Mhm.
landscape of college basketball.
Um, Wrap up on this point. Get you out of here. Uh,
Hmm.
Looking at the top 10 teams in the AP rankings right now, we got Tennessee,
Hmm.
Auburn, Iowa State, Duke,
Yep.
Kentucky, Marquette, Bama, Gonzaga, Florida, and Kansas. Give me the team that you think is most likely to go furthest, which probably means national championship. So who's in March Madness? Who is most likely to go the furthest out of those 10 teams? and who's most likely to get knocked out first. So who do you trust the most? Who do you trust the least?
Well, the lease is easy. I wouldn't trust Shaka Smart to hold $1 of mine
Mm-hmm.
for an hour if I gave him one to hold for me. I mean, I don't trust Marquette. They never, every
Yeah,
year,
yeah.
this is Shaka Smart's here. Nope, it's not. No, no, thank you. Stay away from Marquette. The team I trust the most right now is Kentucky. Right now, Kentucky is the team in the top 10 that I
No,
trust the most. Duke is second. So does
it
that make you feel
that
better?
that Kentucky team's interesting because
It
it's
is.
it's all new guys.
It's new guys, but
Yes,
they're
yeah.
veterans. All of them are veterans. I mean, Kirk Kriisa going down is tough, but all of these guys know how to play. And they've all been in big time games where it's just, I mean, it's a sense of
You
familiarity
know,
to them. I mean, that's how you respond after losing a game on the road. You beat
yeah.
Gonzaga, and then you've got a stretch coming up where you have Colgate, Louisville, Ohio State, and Brown. Like you go 4-0, you're looking at 12-1. You're possibly the
Yeah.
number one team in the country. I mean, Mark Pope's done a fantastic job right
You
now,
you get the vibe, right, that
and
like if Kentucky and Arkansas played, it wouldn't even be close.
yeah, kind of. I mean, you know, watching Kentucky through their first 9 games, you're looking at them and thinking like Kentucky's
Yeah,
back. Like this is the Kentucky that we're all used
yeah.
to seeing. And I think that's the cool thing about it is like, we see Kentucky now and if Kentucky can dominate an SEC play, this is going to be a really dangerous team come March if they
Hmm.
can show us what they're made of.
Yeah. Yeah, I think uh I agree about Marquette. I'm almost tempted to say Kentucky like you. Um because
You
yeah,
can't say Duke.
yeah,
So who
I
besides
need
Duke?
to see a bit more consistency. I question if Broom can get it done on the biggest stage. Um,
Hmm.
and then Tennessee, Rick Barnes has to show me that he can do it. Um,
Yes. Right.
so maybe then you get a Kentucky Marquette, Bama. I don't trust Bama
Hmm.
to finish it. Yeah, I trust them to go pretty far, but not to finish it. Gonzaga,
Right.
I like Mark Few a lot, but I just if the if those past Gonzaga teams couldn't get it done, then I don't know if this is the
Hmm.
team to get it done. Kansas,
Right.
not so much. So I'm probably left with between Iowa State and Kentucky.
Hmm.
I do like Iowa State. I like their toughness at defense. They're scoring a lot better this year. It seems like
Hmm.
than they have in the past. Um, so yeah, between Iowa State and Kentucky, um, those would be my places to go. Duke obviously is my favorite. I'm still waiting to see Duke I mean, there's only so many times you can go down 10. So I'm still waiting to see them
Right.
put together a complete game. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, but yeah, so Kentucky and Iowa State, I like both of them what they have.
Right on the same page.
All right, we'll get you out of there. We got a student athlete that we're talking to right now, so he's got to make sure he can stay on the court.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
All right, well, yeah, we'll check in. At the some point next week, we'll let the week play out, see if anything big happens, and then
Like A&M upsetting Purdue on
you know,
Saturday.
is it at Purdue?
I don't know if it's at Purdue. I think it might be neutral
I don't even know if I'd call that an upset.
neutral site.
I think Purdue played well
Well,
in the beginning of the season, but I think they're gonna
yes.
come back down a little bit.
In the rankings, it's an upset, so we're taking it.
Um, yeah, and then we'll try to get something in next week, and then um,
Hmm.
probably the weekly into Christmas, right? So we'll get
Yeah.
something in next weekend or early next week, and then like the 21st or 22nd, we'll get a little Christmas special edition, and we'll pick a couple
Poor
teams out, and
Missouri's
we'll do
upset
some
of.
what's on each team's like wish list.
How about this? Villanova, a new coach.
Villanova's gonna be they're gonna be like eight and
Indiana,
four by that time.
Indiana to defund the men's basketball program.
No, I
UMass to stop playing basketball.
oh man, they're even lower than Georgia or Virginia Tech in the net rankings.
They suck.
Oh man. Yeah, this was a big step backwards. I don't really know why.
It was. It was. So,
But
yeah, I I'm not quite sure
yeah,
what to
we'll have
say.
to I
Um,
guess
it was
just gotta wait for
unexpected.
the conference tournament. Maybe Frank Martin's not calling plays either, like John Shire. And so by the time
Oh no, he's calling plays all right. I I can tell you that.
oh, all right. We'll check in. But until then,
All
thanks
right.
for the conversation and see everybody later.